Hey everybody, what do you get when you mix a rhinoceros and an elephant? Wait, is it a rhinoceros? Elephant? Yeah, Elephino. Stay tuned for more comedy and entertainment.
Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
Leg out.
Hello everybody. I was just speaking a little bit ago, a couple seconds before the intro, and I noticed my microphone was on mute. Nothing but the best here. Nothing but the best. So I was leaving today, and my son was taking out the garbage. He didn't do it last night, so he's going to do it this morning. It's always best to wait. That's my advice. And he was breaking down the boxes. It wasn't working out, and of course you can probably hear the trash trucks coming up the street. It doesn't help anything. And he's standing there with the attitude like, poor me, or life sucks, or I'm a jerk, or thanks Dad for working your ass off and giving me guidance. One of those. I'm not sure which one. And I'm looking at him standing there in his posture and his demeanor, and I asked him, hey, would you do that at work? And I don't believe he would. I believe he's in a situation because it's mostly my fault for him doing that, because why wouldn't he do that at work? If he did that at work, he would be either embarrassed by his friends and ridiculed by his manager. So I don't blame him as much as me, and there are some other things going on, but ultimately we have to blame ourselves, and so I will try to do a better job. If anybody figures it out, you can email me at adailybodcast.com, and I will read your book, and I will have a mug that says, hey Dad, I got your mug out of mug, and I love you. But until then, I'll try it by trial and error. The economy is doing really well. Some other things aren't. You'll be happy to know this, that if you are curious how bad things are, just talk to the nearest leftist, because it's amazing when I try to be optimistic about things, and man, I've been talking to people as of late, and it's just, you think it's the end of the world as we know it, which was an old REM song, very good song. The attitude of how you look at things, whether it's my son's doing the 1,000-yard stare, or somebody not liking, let's say, the current president. And I'm not saying I'm a big fan. I'm not saying I'm not saying anything, because I think, like I always say, politics are what people get growing up and influences. I don't think politics are about what they should be anymore. Again, it's my example of a city manager. You know, you need somebody that knows how to manage a city. And if we're going to have somebody run for church leader, you need to not have somebody that knows how to manage a city. You need for somebody to be a moral compass more than anything else. And I know it sounds like an endorsement, but it is what it is, and I guess you can't take the politics out of politics. It'll always come to the surface. Anyway, so we're talking about the economy, and if somebody is looking around and they're thinking things aren't too bad, guess what? Things aren't too bad. If somebody's looking around thinking things are horrible, guess what? Things are horrible. There's an old saying: as a man walks into the edge of a city, and there's somebody from the town at the edge of the city, and he asks, "I'm thinking about moving to another town. How is this town?" And the man at the edge of the city, from the city, says, I should call him a citizen, so I don't have to keep on explaining who the man is. And the citizen of this town says, "Well, where did you come from?" And he said, "Oh, the city I came from was horrible. Everybody was wretched. It was a terrible place to live, so I'm drifting on." And the citizen of this town on the edge said, "Well, this town is a lot like that." So the man moved on. Another man came, drifter, whatever you want to call him, vagrant, and asked the citizen at the edge of the town, "What is this town like?" And the citizen gentleman at the edge of the town said, "This town is, well, tell me, what was the town like that you came from?" And the drifter, vagrant gentleman said, "The town I used to live in was a great place to live. Everybody was wonderful." And he went down a list of things that were great about his city. Kids were great. Police were great. Fire was great. Mayor was great. Trash man was great. Homeless people were great. Who did I leave out? That's about it. And the citizen at the edge of the town said, "Well, this town is very much like that." So this drifter decided to enter this town and live happily ever after. And the moral of the story is, don't call them vagrants. It sounds bad. Whatever is on your plate, whatever you put on that plate, that's what's on there. And it could be anything you want. Life's a buffet, because you could grab good things, you can grab bad things. And that attitude is what is going to get you through life. And it's so ironic that it's like the saying, what happens to you isn't what happens to you, it's inward. It's not what happens to you, it's what happens within you. The saying of the paraplegics, after 2 years they go back to their original state of happiness, or their original state of depression, or whatever it is. It because within themselves they find their happiness or their misery, even though they've all lost limbs. And I think that was a powerful study for me to hear. So I'm looking at the the version of myself, and I don't mean to pick on him. Believe me, I'm not perfect, far from it. And just ask him. I'm sure he'll back me up. The reason I'm saying this is because whether it's in business or anything else, your attitude has a lot to do with your outcome. It's funny, we finally, and I told my board this, we have a couple new products. The Nextella is the main one, and we're trying to get it out the door, and we haven't landed on any shelves yet. There's been complications with getting samples out and blah blah blah, and I said a million times, I go, when we get sales, it will, no pun intended, put wind in our sails. And maybe the pun was intended. Maybe I'm that good. And we're not doing super well, and people were, because everybody's busy, we have other gigs, we're not all full time like we should be. We don't have as big a budget as we should have or would like to have. the first sale came in, and it was for maybe 4 stores, and it was such a small moral victory that everybody just felt energized. I noticed that the text started being responded faster when we do our group text, and if we called for a meeting, everybody was just, they were just there, and it does take that little bit of, now that we're on some shelves, it just changes your psyche. Nothing changed. The economy didn't change. Our P&L didn't change, profits and losses, because it's only 4 stores, but our mind changed and how we looked at things, and that's gonna hopefully have a snowball effect and grow and help us to go to the next level. And I've always thought of that. I knew, I kind of pretended how good it was gonna feel when we're finally on some shelves, because I draw from the past. I remember how good it felt when I had other products that we tried to start and failed. But I remember how good it felt getting these products on the shelf, and so that kept me going, and even through the downtime. And I could have easily said, "Oh, to hell with it, we're not going to do it." But no, you stick with it. You just say, "Okay, it's going to feel good. Maybe it's been so long I forgot how it feels." But I grind and grind, and then when we got the first sale, it wasn't even my sale. It was my friend who's basically the president. He was the one that did it, and I was like, "Dude, let me help you pitch. Let me coach you up a little bit." He's like, "No," and it was kind of cool because he went in there and pretty much just presented the product, and they loved it. They stood up, and the product sells itself. Though when it's ironic, when he was telling me how he pitched it, well, he was just kind of like, no, I'm just going to go in there, show him the product, and leave. And I asked him, like, what happened? Break it down for me. And he was saying how when he was talking to him, he's mentioned, hey, nobody has this yet, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, because as soon as you said that, you created a little bit of problem for them. The problem is they are going to be left without if they don't act now. So, unconsciously, subconsciously, he pitched them, and he did good, and I'm sure it's because him hanging out with me for so long, he became a good pitch man. So I will accept that compliment. And it does take that, but that's kind of a different story, or a different topic. But he did get it. They stood up. They loved the product. He said the product sells itself, though we all know nothing does. It's because it's supply and demand. If people think that there's endless supply whenever they want, they're not going to demand it. You create that little bit of scarcity. You look at whether it's the old Cabbage Patch dolls or the iPad. There was a lot of cases there's an artificial shortage created, and you create the supply and demand. We're not at that level because the product is good, but the market is so saturated with people claiming to be good that you do have to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, like the Bible says. At least the wise as a serpent part is appropriate in this situation. So we have that. Okay, cool. It felt good to sell, and now it's like my sales point of if you won the lotto. Let's say you're at a convention and you're doing horrible. You're running one of these booths. I actually love to do that because you're traveling and you're seeing and talking to new people. But sometimes you can be standing around for 8 hours, and it does get kind of depressing if nobody is interacting with you positively. And I think Brian Tracy had this example of you go to your hotel room and you're down and out, and then you call your wife and you find out there's a joke I was going to say, but we'll save it for later. You find out that